and the All Indiana Podcast Network. This is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Jenkins, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 Podcast for Thursday, April 24th. We begin on the Far East Side, where police are searching for a suspect after a person was shot outside of a hotel. It happened at the Norwood Inn at I-70 and Post Road around 10:30 last night. Police say a man told them he was standing outside the hotel when he realized that he had been shot. At last check, he was stable. Witnesses tell police that there was an argument of some kind before the shooting, but they do not know what led up to the gunfire. At the Statehouse, lawmakers now have a plan to close a major revenue gap in the state's budget. That plan comes with tough choices around how that will happen. It could mean higher taxes for some and deep cuts for others. News 8's government reporter Garrett Bergquist reports.
Higher education and general government expenses will bear the brunt of the cuts. Governor Mike Braun says Indiana's financial situation meant the state was well positioned to respond. State leaders have spent the past week figuring out how to cut $2.4 billion from the budget. That's how much less revenue state budget analysts now expect will take in than they expected in December.
When you're operating the opposite of that in a state like we do, it gives us the confidence and the tools to be able to get through it.
The cigarette tax will go up to $2 per pack. Tobacco products other than cigarettes will get a 2% tax hike. Lawmakers say that will bring in about $400 million. That's the only tax hike we'll see. Planned income tax reductions will go on as scheduled.
So in year one, our revenue growth is projected to be 0.8%. And in year two, it's projected to be 0.1%. After Senate Bill 1, the locals will have 1.6% increase in year one and 5.1% in year two. So those that are complaining about Senate Bill 1, I would say they're in a much better position on the revenue than we are.
K-12 education will still receive a 2% funding boost in each of the next two budget years as planned. Universal school vouchers will begin in the 2026 to 2027 school year. Lawmakers also left Medicaid funding as is.
What you hope for really is that as the things settle down in Washington, D.C., that this forecast looks like it's maybe a little bit more cautious and the economy begins to perk up. We hope that's the case, but if it's not, we're positioned to handle those issues.
Here's what got cut. Lawmakers reduced higher education's operating budget by 5% and its repair and rehabilitation budget by 5%. The expanded local public health services lawmakers approved last session will get $40 million a year instead of $100 million. That was already a reduction from this year. And the Indiana Economic Development Corporation will lose at least a quarter of its budget. Democrats say Republicans should have delayed the income tax reductions. They say the budget deal doesn't truly match the state's needs.
If it's not going to fully fund health care, if it's not going to fully fund K-12 education, if it's not going to help schools, our universities, if it's not going to help those first-generation students, I don't think it's a budget at this point that we can completely embrace.
Now, lawmakers expect they will wrap up the session on Thursday. The budget will need a final up or down vote in both chambers before it goes to the governor's desk. At the Statehouse, I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV, wishtv.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
Senator Jim Banks says federal cuts to the VA will not impact services here in Indiana. Banks met with leaders at the Rowdebush VA Medical Center yesterday. He says, according to the facility, about 20 employees have taken voluntary retirement. This comes after the Trump administration announced plans last month to cut over 80,000 jobs from the VA. Banks says he believes those cuts are necessary.
We cut wasteful spending and bureaucracy. Those are dollars and care that can go directly to veterans. And I'm convinced that we have bloated bureaucracy in all of the federal government, including at the VA.
Banks also says a $2 billion replacement hospital is still in the study phase. In Vermilion County, one man is dead after a police-involved shooting. State police say it happened around 6:45 yesterday morning at a home in Dana, Indiana. Vermilion County Sheriff's deputies received reports that a man was pointing a gun at someone. Authorities say the sheriff then requested backup from the Terre Haute Special Response Team. When they arrived, police say they found 57-year-old Michael Landers outside the home pointing his gun at officers. Authorities say that's when one of the officers fired his weapon at Landers. Landers was taken to a hospital where he later died. The officer involved is now on administrative leave, which is standard procedure. Well, President Trump is escalating his campaign to end what he calls wokeness and diversity efforts in education. The president signed a series of executive orders on Wednesday. One calls for more enforcement of a federal law requiring colleges to disclose financial ties with foreign sources. The other orders the U.S. Department of Education to root out efforts to ensure equity in student discipline in K-12 schools. This comes after numerous studies have shown that Black, Latino, and Native American students are more likely to face harsher punishments at schools than their white counterparts. The Federal Emergency Management Agency could be losing a large part of its workforce. That comes just weeks before hurricane season begins. CNN is reporting that about 1,000 FEMA employees are expected to take voluntary buyouts as part of the staff reduction effort from Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, more commonly known as DOGE. That is about 20% of the agency's workforce. President Trump has criticized FEMA in the past, calling the agency partisan, ineffective, and unnecessary. Let's talk sports. IndyCar drivers waited out a nearly 3-hour delay but finally hit the track for the first day of open testing yesterday. Track officials say the delay was caused by a problem with internet connectivity. Two-time defending champion Joseph Newgarden was the fastest driver heading into the final hour of testing. That's until Scott Dixon took the top spot from him, running a top lap of just over 225 miles an hour. Testing picks back up this morning at 9:30. Gates at IMS open at 9 and admission is free. Well, when it comes to the weather, Storm Track 8 says we are in for another great day. Meteorologist Marcus Bailey has your News 8 Daily 8 forecast.
We had very mild conditions yesterday with light winds. We're going to continue to build off that here for the day today. 59 degrees is where we stand right now. It is a northeast wind at 5 miles per hour. Absolutely zero issues weather-wise here for this morning with dry air in place. And it is a clear sky for the most part overhead. Once we approach that 7 o'clock hour, we are going to be dealing with, again, another very bright start for this morning. So absolutely no issues. Morning drive, evening drive, both should be just fine here for this morning. We'll go 57 for the drive into work. How about lower 80s on the way home? Again, it's going to be pretty quiet here weather-wise, no visibility issues. If you're going south later this afternoon, say around the Ohio River, you might run into a brief shower here or there. But other than that, we're going to be in pretty quiet conditions here for the afternoon. And I do think we're going to be in for the warmest day of the week as we go hour by hour on the Storm Track 8 weather app. Lower 80s will be your highs later on this afternoon. That is well above average. We ended up hitting a high of 77 degrees yesterday, so we're actually going to be a little bit warmer than that as we head through the day today. Again, the record or the normal high for this time of year typically is into the mid 60s. 67 is average, so we're well above average. We're about 9 shy of the record high on this date, 1925. So an oldie but a goodie, right? We continue to monitor some mild temperatures, but rain chances returning for your Friday and a bit of a cool down as we head into the weekend as well. We'll time it all out in my Storm Track 8 forecast coming your way in just a few minutes.
To get a peek at Marcus Bailey's full forecast, just head over to wishtv.com or you can download the Wish TV Storm Track 8 app. And don't forget to check out our Storm Track 8 weather blogs. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 podcast for Thursday, April 24th. I'm Jeremy Jenkins for Wish TV, wishtv.com, or follow us on Facebook for updates.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast, a Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.